The Battle Phase podcast is broadcast live on Fridays and Sundays, and we encourage you to come hang out and chat with Bard and Dare live. Now, prepare to declare attacks. You are entering the Battle Phase. Mics are live. Hello, everyone. You have entered the Battle Phase. It is I, the Midnight Bard, your favorite bard, and I had entirely too much for breakfast. Joining me as always is everyone's favorite co-host with the most ghost and back by popular demand, Dareinger.
That's me. I'm the ghost with the host, boast, toast, most.
And you're back by popular demand. You were missed during the Friday episode, and you were on Gamma's what was it, subathon?
I ended up getting the power went out, so
that sucks. Well,
yeah,
that's a shame, but we're happy to have you back. We had a fair bit of technical difficulties, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But before we begin, to all of our watchers on YouTube, please remember to like, sub, and share. We are trying to grow as much as possible, and I see a new subscriber every other day, and it makes me just so happy, and it tickles me very pink, despite the fact that I am in fact blue. But and to our listeners on the podcasting platforms, welcome and thank you for listening. Please remember to join in the conversation. Follow us on Threads and Instagram. Chat with us. We are always happy to hear from you guys. And be sure to check out our latest episode, which was a bonus episode recorded this past Friday, the One Piece episode, where Wilo and I discussed One Piece. And this is exactly what I was telling you, Dare, whenever you said that you were feeling under the weather, so you couldn't do the episode. I figured, you know what? I've been meaning to talk about One Piece for a long, long time. And Wilo and I happened to be roughly at the same area on One Piece. We were like about 8 episodes away from each other. So I was like, hey, you want to just like chat about One Piece for like an episode? And he was like, yeah, sure. So we went live to chat about One Piece, the anime. Coincidentally, it was also the same day that the live action came out. So it wasn't actually Friday; it was Thursday. But so we started talking about One Piece, the anime, and that show was riddled with technical difficulties. Like the stream kept crashing. And, like, we just had, like, bad connection, and it was a nightmare to deal with. But, like, it was funny because at one point, I'm like, man, what is happening? And then I think it was Wilo who says, you know what? It's because Dare's not here. Dare's absence is making all these technical difficulties happen. And I was like, yeah, you know what? That's fair. That is.
I told you, I'm the glue that holds this thing together.
Yeah, you are the glue that holds this thing together. So, to you guys on the podcasting platforms, congratulations! You actually have the edited version of that episode where I cut out all of the technical difficulties. So, that's fun. But what are we watching this week, Dare?
What are you watching this week?
Well, we actually have 2 things that I posted on here. That one of them you shared, which was the pendulum problem, which was posted up on the MBT YGO YouTube channel, where MBT talks about how difficult or how weird pendulums are as a deck, as a card type, as an archetype. Because if we're being real with each other, pendulum is basically just one big archetype, or at least that's how players have always treated it. Yeah. So I mean, a couple of the points that he makes here is, for one thing, pen best deck, let's go. But secondly, it's one of the more complicated mechanics in Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, if we're being real, because it's for one thing, it's like super unintuitive. Like, like if you've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for a long, long time, it's a little easier to grasp. But if you're like if you're trying to explain it to a new player, this is just off the wall. Like, this would make very little sense to anyone just trying to like read a rule book, right? And the
Yeah.
idea is, firstly, they're both monsters and spells. Like a pendulum monster is also a spell card. They have the scales, which you are allowed to summon as many things from your hand and face up extra deck. That have levels that land between the scales. So if you have a 4 and an 8, you can special summon 5, 6, and 7, and like stuff like that. But secondly, that just kind of brings up another thing. Now we can put things face up on the extra deck, which was not something that we could do before, right? Before you couldn't
No.
add things to the extra deck. Now you can. So it's weird. They go face up to the extra deck when they're destroyed, and each pendulum card has both a monster effect and a spell effect, and they can be put in the back row as scales. So instead of summoning like your level 8 pendulum monster, you could set it in a scale zone in the back row, and that works just fine.
Which that used to not even be the case because they had their own pendulum zones on the side of the board.
Yeah, that's right.
So you would have your 5 monsters, 5 spell trap, and then 2 pendulum zones on
and,
the side.
and two pendulum zones on the side, which was insane, right? Because it was kind of like the board was redesigned for pendulums, and eventually, like, that redesign was like, you know what, those pendulum zones on the side, how about we just make it like the last two, like, like the spell and trap zones all the way at the very end, right? So like the one all the way to the left and the one all the way to the right. And it was just kind of like a really, really weird thing. So it's just like, just a lot of really weird things about pendulums. And then we kind of get to the question with like, well, okay, well, how do you play them? And the answer is in the most boring way imaginable. You use them as infinite extension to put as many bodies on the board as you can so that you can summon generic boss monsters. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
And typically, every pendulum deck dissolves to Appaloosa, Borreload, Savage, Baron, Pass.
And that's the play style of like pendulum. It's always been the play style is summon out a bunch of things, go into bigger thing, pass.
Yeah. Yeah, but bunch of stuff makes other stuff pass. And so, like, I feel like, as a monster type, they feel to lack identity, creativity.
Well, like they're I don't know. It's not like synchro monsters or Xyz monsters where you can just kind of put them in any deck. Pendulum monsters and they feel like you have to have a pendulum deck to actually run
True.
pendulums.
True.
Like there are some that you can just throw into any deck. Like Abyss Actor Curtain Raisers. A good example is because if you don't control anything, you can put it in your scale and then special summon it, and you have a level 4 on the field.
Right.
But they just they don't seem to work with anything else really all that well other than themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said earlier, pendulum, they don't really have an identity as like specific archetypes. You can say there's Abyss Actors, there's Endymion, there's Dynamist, but in reality they're all just kind of one big archetype.
Yeah, like, whenever you're playing a pendulum deck, you're pretty much just choosing the best 40 pendulum cards and playing all of them together, right?
Yeah.
That's not to say that they don't have archetypes of their own that they could function in. It's just like the optimal way to play pendulum is just use the best stuff to make generic strong monsters. So like even though you have, like, for example, metal foes are their own thing, and they can do fun stuff. They can fusion summon, etc. Generally, like, you don't play metal foes, and if you do,
You
it,
play Electromite, and that's about it
yeah, you
as
play.
far as
You probably play
like
Electromite, yeah, and that's a
unless you're playing like on Master Duel, no one plays Metal Foes
yeah. Well,
because
even on
it's
Master Duels, they don't like every time. Like, because like now they have like that thing whenever you're watching your replays where it tells you the
the
percentage of a card
percentile.
used.
Yeah,
Yeah, and like metaphors are abysmal. Like nobody, except for maybe me. So it's a mess. But like other things is like, for example, Odd Eyes. Odd Eyes has a whole mess of pendulum cards, and it- nobody plays an Odd Eyes deck. They just choose the best Odd Eyes pendulum support and they play
yeah.
that.
You play Absolute Zero,
Yeah,
and you play um, the Vortex.
yeah.
Those are like the only two good Odd Eyes cards, really. Because like, what does Meteor Burst do? What does the Ritual one do? What does I don't even remember what the other ones are,
Mm-hmm.
but like they just they don't do anything. Like they tried to give Odd Eyes one of each type
Mm-hmm.
because it was like the main protagonist deck,
Mm-hmm.
but like that's the thing. A lot of the pendulum monsters they either don't have good effects or they're just not worth playing because at one point Odd Eyes uh, just like the regular pendulum Odd Eyes Dragon was like somewhat competitive because you could summon it and then it did double damage.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was it.
Yeah. So I mean, like, yeah, but you see what I'm saying though is like it very very generally speaking, you don't play a pendulum archetype. You play pendulum as the archetype. I think the
Yeah,
only one that deviates from that has deviated from that has been Endymion, which Endymion just as a deck like can do a lot of really silly things, but it also sometimes just grabs the good stuff and throws it in an Endymion deck.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to go to the next slide,
Sure.
with Pendulum, it seems like Konami and the MBT uh, mentioned this. They're trying different things with it
Mm-hmm.
because, like, with the Valence archetype, all of those have effects that move the cards.
Yeah.
And you go from playing Yu-Gi-Oh to playing like a
A
it's supposed
tactical
to be like a
RPG or like a MOBA.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like an RPG
Y-
almost
Yeah.
where you're moving the valence monsters around the board
Mm-hmm.
and it's complicated. And then you have something like the Numlaria archetype where it's basically a story of this little girl who you play her in the pendulum zone and then you destroy her so she's face up on the extra deck, which is her bed,
Mm-hmm.
and then she dreams of all of these like giant candy monsters,
I,
and it's a unique archetype,
I
and
for
I
one,
hope they give it more support.
yeah, I was gonna say I for one cannot wait for that to hit Master Duel. Like, but that said, I play Valence, and Valence is fun. Like it's interesting, it's creative. Like the moving pieces on your board is it just adds an extra layer of strategy to your gameplay. Because you have to think in advance. Okay, like, oh, well, if I move this here, I'm blocking this zone, but I need that zone open so that I can move this other thing to trigger its effect. I have these cards in graveyard that will banish in order to move something on my board. I have this field spell which allows me to move something on my opponent's board. So it adds like really weird and really creative elements to gameplay. And it's one of the things that I've loved about Yu-Gi-Oh for a long time is that sometimes an archetype can make you play a different game within this game. So that
Yeah,
that like for example, Valence is one, the other is Flower Guardians, which if you're ever playing Flower Guardians, all you're really doing is playing Super Koi Koi. That's what it is, like it's crazy. Um
I mean, if you're playing against Flower Guardians, you're not actually playing the game. You're just waiting for your opponent to either deck themselves out or end on two of the like lightning showers that they're just going to keep passing.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I love Flower Guardians as a deck, dude. But like I
It's one of the 3 decks that I could play that in the tournament
oh neat,
because
yeah.
it's a warrior deck.
You should
Flower
absolutely do
Guardians are
so.
warriors.
You should absolutely do so. And here's the cool
I'll have
thing,
to think about it.
because like here's the thing. Given that our upcoming tournaments either spellcasters or warriors, that means that things that would normally stop Flower Guardians, such as Droll and Lockbird or Ash Blossom, aren't going to be playable.
You think those stop Flower Guardians? They
I
don't stop Flower Guardians.
I think a well-timed Ash Blossom can bring a Flower Guardian deck to a full stop, unless it's a really dedicated Flower Guardian player. I've seen Flower Guardians crumble to a single interaction, but then again, the people I've seen playing Flower Guardians were just trying to make a point of how complicated the deck is. So I don't know.
It's just click yes and hope that you don't like end on something bad.
I remember when I first saw like the 10-minute testing that MBT did on Flower Guardians, and in my head, just watching what they did, being a new or a returning player to Yu-Gi-Oh, all I could think to myself was, this must be the best deck in the game. In retrospect, I mean, no, but at the time, it's just like, because of how much it can do. In my head, I'm like, well, this is amazing. It must be the best deck in the game. So like, yeah, like I was in for a rude awakening after I finished building it. So I was like, oh, so no, it's not in fact the best deck in the game. It's just really really complicated.
Yeah.
It does an awful lot, but like it ultimately it amounts to like, if you executed your combo right, you get like, what is it, light shower and like light ray. Um, and
You get like 2 or 3 of them.
yeah, you get like 3 of them or something like that. It's pretty fun if you can play it well. But like, I've never been able to, so there's that. We have Brother Gamma in the chat says that Sky, who is one of the players in our Master Duel tournament, plays Odd Eyes, and she's really good at recycling resources, and that's true. If anyone can make Odd Eyes work, it's Sky. She loves like main protagonist decks. She loves anime decks and finding a way to make them function. And in multiple tournaments in the past, she's come out swinging with some of the weirdest builds that I've ever seen. And it's something that you have to take seriously when she's playing, because here I am playing something that's like really aggressive or like really control focused, and Odd Eyes just keeps doing stuff. But like then again, like, that's within a space of curated rules, curated ban lists that we create for our tournaments, and we'll talk more about that here in a second. But anyway, so yeah, MBT did mention, and this is something that I had noticed too, that Konami is starting to treat Pendulum kind of like, let's make them do weird and interesting things, so that like, they don't all just kind of end up in the same Pendulum pile. So
Well, that's they for the longest time they've not even like given any care to pendulums because it's
true.
like it seemed like they just wanted the play style to go away
Yeah.
because it was after they changed to Master Rule 4,
Hmm.
or are we on 4 or 5?
We're on
We're on
Master Rule
4.
5 right now, I think.
Before they changed to having link monsters, it was just like after links and we got rid of the pendulum zones on the side.
Hmm.
It just seemed like they were like, go away, pendulum monsters, we don't love you anymore,
Yeah, it's
because it brought forth like a really bad time in Yu-Gi-Oh, because pendulums were like just too powerful, because you had like things like Pepe and I don't remember the other one that was really good. You had like the Performapile Plush Fire deck, and it's just that was a tier 0 format, and they were like, we made a mistake.
well, it could be argued that like there has been multiple tier 0 formats revolving around certain decks, right? And so like that was just its time to shine. I mean, it's not like there wasn't a tier 0 format before Pepe. So I'm like
This
but
was like a deck that they shot multiple times and they just could not keep it down though.
those exist
Like,
today. So I mean like
yeah,
you
but
know?
but the difference is these are archetypes that you can like specifically isolate and take their power down. Where
Mm.
Pendulum was a pile that they had to hit this card, this card, this card. Well, we can replace this card with this card, and now they have to hit this card, and this card. Well, we can replace that with this.
Yeah, like we can't have
So
Electromite, but we can have Beyond the Pendulum, right? You know, it's
Beyond the
kind of like
Pendulum is so much worse than Electromite, but it's still so good.
yeah, it's really good. I like it. But
We're never getting Electromite back.
I mean, I feel like we might with time. Like, you know, if power creep takes us to a place, which it more certainly, most undoubtedly, probably will. You know, like takes us to a place where you know, like where every deck is just kind of like playing turn zero. I'm like, I don't see a problem with Electromite. But you know, we have King of Canadian Hill in the chat who says, "Hello, hello, hello." Hello, King. You've caught us on a lazy day. Me and Dare are both wiped out.
Yeah.
so, but anyway, to kind of conclude on this is, you know, like, yeah, new pendulum archetypes are kind of doing like a bunch of new and interesting things, and I absolutely love the way that Valmonica is like, oh, they're the devil and the angel on your shoulder, see, because you put them on the far left and the far right pendulum zones, and that makes them count as your shoulders, right? The pendulum scales are your shoulders, and you put an angel and a devil on there, and then you do what they tell you. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, I freaking love this. And as I mentioned, Valence is fun, you know. So like, Abyss Actors, I have to try out the new Abyss Actor stuff. I haven't done it yet, but
Their new stuff kind of makes them not pendulums or not
interesting.
play like pendulums, but like yeah, they're still a pendulum deck. They still do things, but it's just like you do you do it differently now.
Hmm. I gotta
But
give it a try.
they've always been the thing that you don't touch their back row. Like they want you to touch their back row. You don't touch their back
No,
row.
absolutely not. I remember like a tournament back gosh, a couple of tournaments ago. It was one of the last times that Helix played, and somebody was playing Abyss Actors. I don't remember who.
It's probably somber.
Maybe it might have been Sombra, yeah. And I remember he activates like something to pop a back row, and I was like, "Ooh, that's dangerous to do with Abyss Actors." I was like, "Don't." I'm like, you don't want to accidentally pop something dangerous.
Well,
Uh,
when you have an effect that says if this set card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect,
mhm.
summon 5 cards from your deck.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
pretty good.
yeah.
When you
That's
have a card that says if this is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, draw 5 cards. It's
mm-hmm.
pretty good.
And what's the other one that it shuffles everything your opponent controls back into their deck? I think it's like Wild Wagon or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like if their field spell was a lot better, then they would be probably
yeah. They
like
would be
at
hit
least a
quite a
rogue.
bit. Yeah.
Because
I
their field spell lets you change the effect of one of your opponent's cards to destroy a back row.
yeah.
But
I
I think
almost
it's only
feel
once per
like
turn.
it is only once per turn. I feel like the only way that Abyss Actors would get to that stage is almost like if they had a Cash Tira thing where it's like, oh, if your opponent tries to interact with your stuff, you can change one of their effects to like pop your back row, you know? Uh,
Yeah, if their field spell wasn't once per turn.
yeah, like if their field spell wasn't once per turn, or if that effect was also on monsters, you know, because their monsters don't have that. And it's like, okay, you know, but yeah, so like, I like what Konami's doing, changing pendulums to be more kind of a fun zone, you know, like let's make these decks just do whatever. I'm like, I love that. I'm here for it. I love it when we experiment with like card types and super types to make them play differently from what you'd expect. It's one of my favorite things. So like, like the Flawanderies, you don't special summon, but you technically special summon, right? Every special summon counts as a normal summon, and
Yeah.
yeah, and so like it plays differently. So I like it. It's great, and I hope to see more about this. And uh, like yeah, that's what I have to say about that. But the second YouTube video that we were watching this week, or I was watching this one, Birdkeeper Toby is leaving YouTube. You ever hear about Birdkeeper Toby?
I'm not really into like Pokemon stuff all that much. Like I watched the anime as a kid, but that was about it.
Oh well, he's not about Pokemon. He keeps birds.
It says popular PokeTuber.
Damn it! I did put that on there, didn't I?
Yeah.
I was about to be like. So anyway,
Unfortunately for you, I'm one of the few Yu-Gi-Oh players that actually can read.
yeah. Birdkeeper Toby has been a popular PokeTuber for 9 years. He started his channel in 2015, and he's just like rose to popularity. I think he started it during while he was in college. Kind of like as a fun project, and it just kind of took off. It eventually became his career. He does like Pokemon lists, like Fakemon, Pokemon theories, Pokemon lore, stuff like that. So, just like a really popular member of the Pokemon community on YouTube. And he put out a video this past week where he basically said that it's been a fun ride, but he's feeling burnout as a creator. He's feeling like he doesn't want to keep just throwing the same content out at his audience, and he doesn't think that his audience would want him to keep doing that either. So he's decided to take a hiatus where he says anywhere between 6 months to a year, and that's if he's coming back at all, right?
Yeah.
He's like like he considers this basically quitting YouTube. But as creators tend to do, like you never know if you're gonna stay off of the platform. You might come back in a different capacity, and he does make mention of this. Like so, if I decide to come back, if I decide to come back, maybe it'll be as a Pokemon YouTuber. I don't know, probably not. But like if I do, it'll be different. What if I come back as instead of a Birdkeeper Toby, the PokeTuber? How about if I come back as a VTuber? How about if I come back as a lore tuber? Like a general lore. How about if I just decide to make shorts instead? So he has kind of like this whole gamut of like like maybe I come back, maybe but like right now it's not looking like it. And if I decide to come back, it won't be for at least 6 months to a year. But so he says he's taking this break. He's doing it to reconnect with family, with friends. Because like basically the channel was kind of becoming like his whole focus. Like that all I'm doing is making content, and if I'm not making content, I'm thinking of content to make. So like King of Canadian Hill in the chat says, it sounds like the artist got bored of his art. And yeah, that happens sometimes. Like and King of Canadian Hill is an artist, and as am I. And I can express, yes, this is the same reason that I quit being a comic book artist. Because like whenever you're working in that industry, and like that's all it is it's a job. It kind of like you eventually kind of don't vibe with it anymore. Like so whenever I was drawing comic books, it was always kind of like the same thing. Like we're drawing superheroes, we're drawing supervillains, they're fighting with each other, and like I don't know, it's in a city and it's in this, and like there's a jailbreak, like there's capes and costumes and stuff like that. And in my head, it's like I just want to draw dragons, like I want to draw, I don't know, like samurai. I want to draw fantasy, like stuff like this. But it's kind of like, yeah, okay, let's do a one-off where like one of the villains turns into a dragon, but it's still a superhero story, and it's like, okay, so you kind of like get to this point where it's a little exhausting, and like where the thing that you used to have passion for, it no longer it's no longer something that you're passionate for. So yeah, I can 100% sympathize with him. And sometimes you need a break. Like that's kind of the thing that happened to me is like over the past year, I did get back into doing art, and I only did it because I've been away from it for so long that I felt like the creative juices were flowing again. So like sometimes you do need to take a step back, and like so I for 100% support what he was doing here. And but like you said, like maybe he stays away, maybe he doesn't, and it's as a creative, sometimes you can walk away from your art and not look back. uh, I don't feel like he might stay away. He might come back as a different type of YouTuber, which is also fine. You gotta like let your art take you where it takes you. A couple of things that he says is so he's basically given like a deadline here that like he's going to continue making content for Birdkeeper Toby for the rest of this year, and starting on January of next year, he's done. He will be attending a few shows and conventions in the meantime, so he encourages fans that if they see him at one of these shows, come say hello. Because, and I think this was like the most wholesome part of this video, is that everything he said wasn't with like, like, 'cause sometimes I've seen YouTubers leave the platform before, and all they say is like all this negative stuff, like like, oh man, I don't know, like I just can't, I'm not feeling it, I'm burnt out, I'm this and that, blah blah blah. But Birdkeeper Toby was so appreciative of his fans, like he doesn't start the video by just being like, okay, you know what, I'm tired. He starts the video by basically saying, look, I am quitting, but first, before we say anything else, thank you to all of the fans. Thank you for like giving me an opportunity to do this. And it's just like a really heartwarming thing where he's basically telling his fans, look, it's been a real treat to do this for you guys. And like it's a shame, that we're parting ways, but that's life. And I'm like, yeah, this was a very genuine, very very wholesome goodbye video. So whatever his next endeavors are, I wish him well. I really do.
Yeah, it's sad whenever somebody that you watch their content, they announce that they're going to be quitting.
Hmm.
But I mean, at the same time, all you have to do is like wish them good luck and
Yeah.
hope that they find uh, success in their future endeavors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, he may not be quitting, but
Yeah. Like you remember
he's just
when?
taking a break.
Yeah, just taking a 1 year break. You remember when Pikami left? Remember when Pikami graduated?
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
because of reasons, and then
But it's cool
yeah,
that we got other VTubers like Henya the Genius, right?
yeah.
Wilo's Arcade is in the chat. Hello. So yeah, like GG's Birdkeeper Toby. We hope you do well in whatever endeavors you choose to follow, and enjoy the last 4 months. Like if you like, say for example, if we ever decided to like call it quits on the channel, the last couple of like episodes, I would absolutely have the biggest blast that I could. And I kind of hope that he does that. Like, hey, you know what? You're going to be leaving. Treat it as a celebration. Like really, really connect with your fans for one last time. Like have fun with them. Like chat them up. Like make it about them is what I would do. But, well, we are.
Or you just go off the rails like what Coco did when she graduated from Hololive, and you just let all inhibition go away.
Oh, is that what happened?
It was fantastic.
Like, what was she doing? Now I'm curious.
Like she was unhinged as is,
Hmm.
but she was just like, let's just take the whole door off. And that was like every stream leading up to her graduation. And then her graduation was all nice and sweet. They had all the members say goodbye, and then she did like a little concert because she never got to perform at her concert, but
Yeah.
she left on good terms.
So when are you and I doing a VTuber concert? I feel like that's something that we haven't discussed enough. You and I are VTubers of a sort.
Whenever you learn how to do stuff like that.
Oh, so like there's technical stuff required. We're not, like we're in front of mics right now. We could just like serenade our audience with the
No,
sweet, sweet
that's not
stylings of
how it
Bon
works. That's not
Jovi.
how it works. Well, let's go next. New selections and secret packs on Master Duel.
Yeah, new selections and secret packs on Master Duel. It's
I think
great.
I think I skipped like a whole slide. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, we have another one that I added here, which basically says other notable things we watched, and it's just kind of like a little something that I wanted to touch on. I did watch the One Piece live action. It's good, you know.
I've seen clips of it. It
Yeah,
doesn't seem bad.
yeah. I'm not gonna go too far into it. Basically, just to add here that like it is not even in the same category as other adaptations. Like for example, like Death Note, the live action. It is leaps and bounds different from that, which is good. They do take artistic liberties with the show a little bit, just to kind of condense some story plots that might have been a little more bloated, and I think that's fine. Like all of the actors seem to be comfortable in their roles, and they seem to like bring life to the characters. A lot of the anime humor is toned down a lot, which I feel like for a live action is appropriate.
I mean, you
Um,
have to because
yeah,
CGI costs a lot of money, I guess.
right. So I mean, it's good. Like I watched it and I was like, yeah, like the changes that they made were really inoffensive. Which is what I love about like when live action adaptations have to happen. It's inevitable that you're going to have to take some creative liberties. But I think that the important thing is that the creative liberties stay true to the spirit of the original work, which this one absolutely 100% does. So, cool. Secondly, I have a clip. I watched a clip from the British game show The Chase, which you introduced me to, Dare.
Yeah,
And in this one in particular, this was a hilarious clip, which is my favorite brand of humor is when
they
somebody.
asked what the German name for Andy Cap was, I think,
No, 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 no. This
or
is
something like that.
is something different. So basically, like this is my favorite brand of humor, where somebody in a professional setting reads something that is funny, but they're trying to keep it together and they're obviously failing. It is my favorite type of humor. And so in this particular episode of The Chase, the host, Bradley Walsh, asks the question of what sport does the German athlete Fanny Schmeller play? And like he manages to deliver the question with a straight face, but like afterwards, as he's thinking about it, I think he just kind of like realizes like, oh, that person's name is Fanny Schmeller, isn't it?
Which you know the difference between the British word fanny and the American word fanny,
Yes,
correct?
absolutely, yes, I do.
Okay.
So,
I was
so
gonna say because it has a completely different meaning.
it does, it does. So he is fighting for his life, trying to keep a straight face, but he is turning red. He's got like this tight-lipped smile where he's holding back the laughter. I think at one point there was even tears, where he's just really trying. And
There's another one where he asked the question of what the German name of Andy Cap from this. I think it was like a cartoon or something.
mhm.
They asked what the German name for Andy Cap was, and the names were Dick Tingler, uh, Helmet Schmacker, or Willy Whacker, and he
That's-
he could not he could not.
Supposedly, and this is something that I found out after watching this clip because it was said so in the comments, that supposedly it was this type of scenario where like they would where he ran into a question and then he tried to keep it together for the camera and just failed, that made their ratings skyrocket. So writers in the future just started throwing in curveball questions like that just to make him lose his shit.
Well, it's something with TV that if you have a character
Mhm,
that is supposed to be this character,
mhm.
it's always amusing to see them break character. That's
Yeah.
like with wrestling. It's always amusing to watch like the videos of people trying to get the Undertaker to laugh because
Ah.
Undertaker's this guy who's not supposed to laugh, and there's like a rather famous one where they have the Undertaker while he's in his American Badass phase
Mm-hmm.
down in the ring,
Mm-hmm.
and Booker T's trying to get him to do the spinneroonie, and just one by one the WWE locker rooms coming out, and they're all doing the spinneroonie trying to get Undertaker to do it. And he had a interview, I think, with Stone Cold, and he was like, I was so pissed because it was just one after one person got down to the ring, here comes someone else's interest music, and God damn it if they didn't try to make me do it too.
I was gonna ask you about that because I ran into a similar clip from several WWE events, and it's this one wrestler who I don't recognize, and his whole thing was, he would get up to the mic and he would talk smack, and he's like, you and me, or you and this guy, and you're not gonna make it out of this. And then like the wrestler that he was talking to would be like, I'm not fighting in this event, and he'd be like, oh,
R-Truth.
yes, yes.
R-Truth is a fucking national treasure.
And
Because they gave him like the persona of a lovable idiot,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he took it and ran with it. There's so many clips of him just like doing, like, because they have like multiple different types of wrestlers, right? There's the heel, which is the bad guy. There's the baby face, which is the good guy. You have your enhancement talents, which are just professional losers, basically.
mm-hmm.
They're supposed to go and like make someone look better.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have your comedy acts, which was like R-Truth, Santino Marella, and like their whole thing in the business is to make you laugh.
Yeah, yeah, and it did, like, especially because here's the thing, like every time when he would just be like, "Oh, you're not fighting in this? My bad, everybody, my bad." And you can see some of the guys
That's
who are
on me.
supposed to be
That's on me.
yeah, the guys who are supposed to be like the heels or like the tough guys and stuff like that, and they start breaking, like they start laughing themselves and just kind of like turning away from the camera, and I'm like,
There's one where he goes out while Brock Lesnar's in the ring, which if you know who Brock Lesnar is, he's a UFC fighter. I think he was MMA.
Mhm.
So he's just like this really massive dude, and he's also like wrestled in the WWE for years.
yeah,
And he was the champion at the time. And him and Paul Heyman, which was his manager, are out in the ring talking about the Royal Rumble.
Mhm.
R-Truth comes down to the ring, and he's going on and on about how he's going to be in the Royal Rumble and he's going to win. And he goes, and I know you're a big
that's the exact one I saw.
man,
Yeah,
but I'm going to throw you over the ring at the Royal Rumble. Paul Heyman. Fucking Paul Heyman just looks shocked. Brock Lesnar, he's supposed to be tough, stone cold, like killer type vibe, busts out laughing.
yeah, that's the exact clip that I saw where he goes like, "You, Paul Heyman," and it was just like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, my bad, that's on me, and everyone's just laughing, and I was like, dude, like this is my favorite brand of humor, and it
There
kind of.
was
It reminded me of a little bit like if you've ever seen like the Monty Python Life of Brian is the biggest dickest clip, where he's like, "Do you find it risible when I mention my friend Biggest Dickus?" And like the
fun fact about that was completely improvised.
it was like the guys playing the Centurions had no idea that the joke was coming, which is why they're fighting to keep it together, and
then they rolled with it.
they just rolled with it. It is beautiful, man. I love that kind of humor. That is my favorite. So whenever I saw that clip from the chase, I was like, "Oh, I have to talk about this." And right now, when you were mentioning the WWE, and I remembered, oh, I did see the thing from R-Truth, and it was beautiful. It's the same kind of thing. I love it.
I'll send you a video of the best of like R-Truth moments, because he did that stuff all the time.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. And the last thing that I mentioned on our now watching thing was a Team APS video where Paul basically in his rant mode, which he's very self-aware that he rants. Paul is under no misconception that he doesn't do this. So he starts the video by apologizing, like, yeah, this is gonna be Paul's on his soapbox again, like stuff like that. And he's ranting about the fact that, like, Konami has to be aware that some of the cards that they print are just never gonna see play. They're not gonna do anything because like the way that the strong decks are designed, they're designed to be really really strong. But then you print some cards that is like, when did you ever expect this to be usable anyway? Like, So he says, the thing about this is, it would be really cool if we could use these cards, because they're not bad. They're just not strong. They're good cards. They're just not strong. So it would be really cool if we had alternative formats where these things had a chance to do something. And it kind of like reminded me of like the conversations that you and I have been having going back. That like honestly, the best way to fix a lot of the problems and a lot of the player retention that Yu-Gi-Oh's having is to create alternative formats for new players and such, you know, so that way, like there's places where like say I didn't want to play tier elements during tier format, which I didn't. So like, but if there was like a nice place where I could retreat to and play a different format with a different deck and it would be fine. Like that would have been really good. I might have like gone to locals a lot more during that era. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, like this just makes sense. Like luckily for me, I kind of like during that time, we did have Master Duel, so I could go to Master Duel and play Tri Brigade and such. But like for people who want to play like the TCG, there's no place to retreat. Like if you have a crap what do you call it, a crap format, you're just stuck playing that format, unless you just want to do tabletop games with your friends, or unless you just want to do something other. But like, how crappy is it that, like if you want to play like one of your pet decks or something like that, and you just have no place to do so. So it was just kind of like a thing where I was like, yeah, we've mentioned this in a couple of videos already, and I was like, it's kind of funny that he's kind of on our same wavelength.
Well, I feel like a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh community does share like a lot of the same beliefs with each
Mhm.
other, because I'm trying to find the card because it came out probably a year or two ago. It's like a guy that's dressed up like a dinosaur, but it's like cardboard boxes,
Mhm.
and he's on like a set for like a movie or something. And I remember I opened that
Mhm.
and I looked at it and I read its effect, and my like first thoughts were, why is this a card? Like, it's not going to be played. No one's going to play it. It's just pack filler, and that's for the longest time now. Konami has just made pack filler,
Mhm.
and it's like you said. There's not going to be a time that that's going to be useful
Yeah.
unless there's an alternate format
W-
for it.
One of the biggest examples of that is Psychic Eraser Laser. That is such a good card, and it will never see play because compared to the stuff that's out there already, it's like, where do you play this card? Like like why would you play this as opposed to something else that's just stronger? So
Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of one of those things. So, like, I agree with him. Definitely different formats the best way to go about this. So yeah, just kind of figured I'd put it up here and be like, hey, yeah, this was kind of funny. But you were mentioning the new selection and the new secret packs on Master Duel.
yeah, because I was trying to get you off the topic of whatever it was.
I don't remember what that topic was.
Good, let's not go back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the new selection pack.
Yeah, so we have the Beastly Claws of Terror, which is the new secret pack, and as we know, secret packs in Master Duel is basically like they're packs that are focused on certain archetypes and stuff. And if you craft like they're not ever in the shop unless you craft a super rare or an ultra rare, or you accidentally pull a secret rare or an ultra rare from that specific archetype or from that specific secret pack, at which point it becomes unlocked for 24 hours. So, Beastly Claws of Terror features Scareclaw, Visa Starfrost, and X Sabers, and it is presently going to be present in the shop unlimited for an unlimited time until October 9th. At which point it will become a fully secret pack, which means that you will have to craft either a super rare or an ultra rare to unlock it for 24 hours so you can pull from that pack. Um, The new selection pack, which are on the shop for like a limited time and then they disappear, is Inherited Unity, which features dual Monsters era support, including the new Egyptian god stuff for Obelisk the Tormentor, Blackluster Soldier, including his new ritual, and Red Eyes, including the new Red Eyes Soul card. So, like if you're a fan of like Dual Monsters era stuff, you got some Dual Monsters era stuff in that one. It's pretty dope.
So some like not great stuff other than the Vice's Starfrost.
I mean, yeah, you could say that. I feel like the here's something that I just have to kind of say about this is I honestly think like that the Egyptian God support is really really good. The problem is that Egyptian God decks as a concept are really really slow. Like like if you put like what is it, Fist of Fate in any other deck for any other card, it'd be really good, but like just Egyptian God decks are just gonna like
Well,
so
it's the fan favorite type thing, right? Because they want to like give support to things that like casual Yu-Gi-Oh players like. So
yeah, I just want to address King of Canadian Hill in the chat says that he's a fan of the Death Note live action. I really hope he means like the Japanese live action, which at the very least attempted to stay true to the spirit of the thing, whereas the
not English.
yeah, the American live action just completely deviated from like what it was meant to be and what it was meant to say, and it was ooh boy.
Well, it's The Simpsons is what they did.
Yeah, it was ooh boy. It just I remember watching it, right, and within the first 15 minutes, I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of those adaptations. Just like already we had just completely taken a different road, and I was just like, all right, let's stick with it and see where it goes. Like 45 minutes in, and I was like, nope, shouldn't have stuck with it. This is not at all what I was like, hoping for. But yeah, with one exception, Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, fucking chef's kiss of a casting choice. Just excellent. Just yes. The rest of the movie, no. But like that one choice, excellent, fantastic. But anyway, moving on from one last thing I wanted to say about the selection packs is I hear that this new Blackluster Soldier ritual is actually really good. Do you know what it does?
Which one is it?
The new one that came out in Maze of Memories.
It's the new one in Maze of Memories.
Yeah, so like I'm not 100% certain as to what it does. So
let me look it up real quick.
Okay. In the meantime,
I was unaware.
Allow me to serenade you with the musical stylings of things I'm making.
I have it looked up, so don't even fucking start. You can ritual summon this with Chaos Form or Super Soldier Ritual. Must be ritual summoned during your draw phase. Before you draw, you can reveal this card in your hand, give up your normal draw. If you do, add one ritual spell from your deck to your hand. Your opponent cannot activate cards during the battle phase. When this card attacks, that was ritual summoned using a normal monster, destroy an opponent's monster by battle. When this ritual summon monster, when it attacks and destroys a monster by battle, you can shuffle all cards your opponent controls into the deck.
Oh, holy cow, there it is. I was like, so far that's pretty standard fare. You must ritual summon it. It has battle tricks. Okay, like when do we get to the juicy stuff? It is like, if it destroys something by battle, shuffle everything into the deck. That's juicy. That is like
it's a one-sided fiber jar kind of.
Yeah, that being said, ritual summoning is inherently difficult. So are you going to be able to make this all the time? Probably not. But if you manage to jump through those hoops and do that, it's pretty much duel over at that point, right? Because like you can recover from things going to your graveyard, no problem. You can recover.
That's not even that hard to summon though, because it says you can, whenever you draw, you can reveal it in your hand, and then instead of drawing, you add a ritual spell to your hand.
Right.
So you just get your Chaos Form or your Super Soldier.
So that's
ritual.
Whew, that is good. Like I still feel like it's a little bit of like let's jump through some hoops, but the payoff is really really good.
The hoops are really low, and they're also really easy to walk through. Like,
Right.
you don't have to jump; you could walk through them.
Yeah. So really really good. I like it. Um, but moving on from this, we have Fire Emblem Mobilize Engage. Uh, the manga adaptation of Intelligence Systems Fire Emblem Engage will release its first volume in Japan on the 4th of September. So today, I guess in Japan, tomorrow if we're talking like our 4th, cuz they're what, like a day ahead?
Yeah,
Yeah, so like so tomorrow for us, today for them. So this is
they're 24 hours ahead of us, so it's 1 a.m., 2
ah,
a.m. for them.
okay, so yeah, so today
Not
for them.
24, 12.
So this apparently the manga has been in serialization in Saikyo Jump, which is a kind of like a spin-off of Shonen Jump. It's like a monthly publication by Shueisha. Um, and yeah, so the authors are credited as Nintendo and Kazuro Kyo, who may also be the artist. Like it's unclear. He was because sometimes the manga artist and the manga author are the same person. Sometimes they're different people. So whenever I saw him listed as the author, I kind of assumed that he also did the art. Not sure. But with that being said, this is an adaptation of the video game. So like if all of the story that you guys have been seeing me play on Let's Play nights is basically what this manga is about. It may, like kind of like canonize a couple of things which in the game are kind of up to choice. But yeah, one other thing that I want to mention, and I had to write this down because I did Google search Kazuro Kyo just to kind of see if he was an artist in anything before, so that I could tell you for sure whether he was an just the author or if he did both. And given like a couple of images that I found of the Google search, if he is the artist, he is down bad for the Divine Dragon Lumera because the man just seems to enjoy drawing her, and I was like, yeah, yeah, okay, it's understandable. Lumera had it going on. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Huh. That this is exciting. Like Fire Emblem Engage, I kind of enjoyed the playthrough. It was fun. Like we're doing a second one right now where the audience picks my party, and that adds a whole new level of challenge and difficulty. I'm not sure how I feel about manga adaptations of video games. It's weird, because like sometimes an anime adaptation of a video game or a manga adaptation of a video game can be good. I can't think of any examples of it, but I do know that like the examples that I can think of that weren't so good are things like Kingdom Hearts. I thought the Kingdom Hearts manga was kind of like just really, really stepping on the gas and kind of breezing over a lot of things, almost as if they were trying really hard to catch up to where the lore was by the point that the manga started, and it just felt kind of like a rush job, So I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on what they were hoping to do with this, and also it's kind of weird that the manga adaptation comes out so far after the video game did. You know what I'm saying? Like normally these things are kind of released in tandem just to kind of like drive up hype for one another. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
so it's weird that we're getting the manga. It's like, hey, you know what? You're getting the manga, the first volume in September 4th of 2023 when the game came out in January. So kind of a weird one, but just I figured it's relevant because we've been playing this on the channel, so just kind of figured I'd talk about it. But continuing on video game news, friend or food? League of Legends reveals new champion named Briar.
yeah. Briar is interesting one.
Yeah,
She's apparently supposed to be like a jungler? Question mark.
yeah.
And
I kind of put like damage question mark because like her abilities kind of led me to believe that, but jungler I feel makes more sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't know. She seems like she would be able to just like gank and whatnot. I'm sure. I've been reading her abilities here, and
Hmm.
they're interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, haven't really read enough into it to see like if she's got like a Dota 2 comparison that I could put her to.
Just kind
But
of like measure her up to Dota and see how that goes.
well, there's always like parallels between champions and heroes
Yeah.
in the two different games, and like usually they do draw inspiration from each other.
Mm.
So, but like from the trailer, it looks like she's like a highly mobile hero that you would put in like a jungle position so they would roam around the map and whatnot.
One of her abilities is a sneak attack, isn't it? I think she has an ability that's specifically called sneak attack.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, like she can stun enemies, she can bleed enemies, things like that, and it looks like her abilities cost health to cast.
which
So
that's not something that's unfamiliar with League. They have a couple heroes that, or a couple champions that have alternate spell costs. Like Garen has like no spell cost, and then you have something like Shyvana that has like a power mechanic or a rage mechanic, and
mhm.
so it's not out of the ordinary to see an alternate way for you to have to pay for your spells.
Did you see her reveal trailer?
Yeah, I just watched that.
Yeah, it's you call me crazy, but like it gives me like very high energy, almost like very Jinx like vibes. Like, but
Well,
not Jinx from like like get jinxed Jinx, but almost like arcane Jinx whenever she's having like her
her mental
episodes.
breakdown.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Um, Also kind of like reminds me a little bit of like I don't know if you've seen the Netflix movie Nimona, a little bit like that, a little.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've watched that.
yeah, like so it's got like
I could kind of see that one. Yeah,
yeah, she's got like this bright color palette. She's a cute character who has a monstrous form. It's really cool. Let's
and
see.
then feet.
Yeah, the controversy over her feet.
There's
The memes on the day that this happened that they gave her shoes right on her splash art, and the fans were like, "No, no, do not take this from us." And it's just like this is like about a week ago when we were talking about like Rosemi Lovelock's new design where now she has like either open toe sandals or something, and people started calling her toe semi. It's just
yeah.
like
People are weird.
people are a little weird on the internet, man. It's kind of like that back in the day. What was it like? When I was hanging out in art forums and somebody posted like the picture of their OC, but she like censored the armpit, and I was like, we censoring armpits now? And she's all like, well, yeah, because there's a bunch of weirdos on the internet. And I'm like, yeah, me, uncensor it, please. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you just out yourself like that.
Yeah, but so according to Wilo, he feels that she looks awesome, and he's very excited. Are you excited for the feat? I gotta know.
Uh, well, I don't know. I don't play junglers, and if I do play junglers, it's Skarner, and
Okay.
Skarner's not good. So
I like damage carry characters personally, and whenever I'm playing MOBAs, but I play tanks better, which is so frustrating to me because I was like, I just want to kill other characters, but it's like, but I'm better at keeping people alive. This sucks. It's just kind of like, so yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for it. Like I've always been a huge fan of like Riot, their art direction. I think like all of their art always looks very very clean. I think art wise, it's really hard to argue that Riot and like Wizards of the Coast just have like just quality artwork like all the time. So just I'm always happy to see a new champion, just kind of like see like the different design elements with it. And this one here, like the splash of just bright pink on like a very very terrifying character. In my opinion, it's just like, hey, that's kind of cool. I like it. But speaking of MOBAs, Dota bans a ridiculous amount of Smurfs.
Which this, so this is actually, I love this because they released a new update. I'm not gonna say it was a patch because they didn't really change any heroes or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but they did like a kind of housekeeping type patch
Mm-hmm.
where they banned 90,000 people for smurfing.
That is a
And
lot.
uh, alongside this, they also added like a new behavioral system that has like communication. You have a communication score now for how well you like talk in a game, and you have a behavioral score. And based on like what your score is, you gain and or lose certain abilities in the game.
Certain abilities? Like,
This,
oh, what do you mean?
well, uh, this is most likely going to get changed because Valve didn't think it through. But if you have a behavior score of less than 5,000, you lose the ability to pause the game. So you can't unpause the game either. And recently there's been a clip going around of uh, someone who queued in I want to say it was either Europe West or Southeast Asia server.
Mm-hmm.
And they were the only one with a behavior score over 5,000. And they decided, well, I'm tired. I'm going to take a nap. They paused the game for 3 hours, took a nap, came back, and then half of like 3 of the people on the other team had abandoned it by that time. So they ended up winning because who's going to sit for 3 hours and wait for your game?
Yeah, really. That is wow. That is a hell of an oversight.
Yeah, but Valve's a small indie company that they don't know any better. So, but they also added new sets in with this and the new summer terrain because it's summer now apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was a welcomed change because uh, at the end of each match, people have the option to either like and commend you or dislike, and that affects your behavioral score.
Right.
And like I said, if you have like, I think it's 1,000 allows you to actually use chat
Mm-hmm.
and use like pings and stuff.
Yeah.
5,000 allows you to pause the game, and I don't remember what 10,000 allows, but um, a lot of people have been more vocal since the change. A lot of people are more like kind during the change.
That's good.
Europe West is still really toxic. I played a game this morning on Europe West, and it was just 2 people telling how they're going to fuck each other's mother, and I was like, "That's you guys are gonna get reported for those, so have
Yeah.
fun."
Mm. It never fails. It feels like it's in on every online game with any degree of competition. You know, it
Yeah,
like
any
sooner or
competitive game.
any competitive game, sooner or later somebody's gonna do something to somebody else's mother. It never fails. You know, it exists.
The one that got me was the guy who was struggling to speak English said, "Learn to speak English" to the other guy who was speaking perfect English.
I love it. We have a couple of sad news. Like just to kind of like round out the episode here. 2 iconic legends pass on this past week. Arlene Sorkin, who was known for playing Calliope Jones for a long time on Days of Our Lives, and for being both the inspiration and the voice of Harley Quinn on Batman the Animated Series and other projects such as the Arkham video games and a bunch of DC animated universe movies. Uh,
Yeah,
so she has passed away. Harley Quinn was actually a character that didn't exist in the Batman comics. She was created specifically for Batman the Animated Series by artist Paul Dini. And Paul Dini is friends with Arlene Sorkin, and he based the character off of her. So yeah, so basically he created this character and he was like, look, Arlene, it's you, but I'm also working on Batman the Animated Series. You want to play this character? And the rest is history. She's been Harley Quinn pretty much ever since. um
He
so kind of a sad thing, you know, like Harley Quinn is a super popular character. I mean, she's just kind of like the breakout star of, like, you know, the Batman the Animated Series, because once she made her appearance there, she was very well received by fans. She eventually went on to appear in comics. As of recent, she's had like a bunch of success in her own comic series, in her own movies, and recently even like her own animated show, I think, which is on HBO Max, which is always kind of like a parody of the superhero genre, you know, like stuff like that. So, you know, like, yeah, kind of an icon that, you know, like walked into the comic book world. I almost on accident, I want to say, and but like that said, it's not like she didn't have like a very successful acting career otherwise, because she did. You know, like you look on her Wikipedia and on her IMDb, she actually has a bunch of roles in a bunch of other things, a lot of which I don't recognize, but, you know, I don't watch soap operas, so so, like, you know, yeah, so kind of sad to see her go. She passed in 2023 last week, I think, of complications due to multiple sclerosis.
yeah.
I'm having a hard time pronouncing things. But
I can tell.
yeah, but that said, you know, we also have Bob Barker, who
This is, if you don't know who Bob Barker is, then that's more astounding.
yeah,
The
you
dude lived to almost be 100 years old. He
if
died
he
at
had
99.
if he had lived to December, he would have been 100.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's one of the upsetting things is like so close,
yeah, so
so
close
close.
without going over.
But yeah, it's probably one of the biggest animal rights advocates in the history of forever.
Yeah.
And he was also I noticed you didn't put he was on Happy he was in Happy Gilmore, I think was the movie, right?
Oh, he was on Happy Gilmore, wasn't he? I
He
totally
he made
forgot.
a ton of cameos. Like,
Yeah, yeah, because he's so recognizable. You mentioned whenever whenever you noted this to me that he had passed, that he was a household name, and very true. You know, he really was. So
I think the way I actually found out that he passed was I was watching a video because you'd mentioned to me last week that a lot of wrestlers had passed,
mhm.
and someone made a video of all of the wrestlers who passed in 2023, and Bob Barker was on it for some reason. And I looked it up, and for some reason, he's in like the Hall of Fame for the WWE.
Why?
I don't know.
I was like, why? The okay, you know what? You don't know. That's fair. But yeah, he was the host of The Price is Right for a long time, like decades. You know, and they to the point where I almost feel like his name is synonymous with The Price is Right. But here's a little unknown fact, little factoid that I dug up while I was researching him. He was apparently also the host of a show called Truth or Consequences from 1956 to 1975, where the show was basically like they would ask you a question and then give you a couple of seconds to answer, and it was always either like a riddle or like a obscure trivia or just you know, finish the punchline of a joke, and then you would so if you managed to do it within the small time frame that they gave you to answer it or to finish the sentence or whatever, then they would continue on that train. So, you know, like that joke would have a part two, or like that riddle would have another riddle to follow it, etc., etc. And so, like, if you manage to get it, you keep going, and if you fail at any point, you're forced to do kind of like an embarrassing dare, you know. So it was a fun thing.
King points out that Terry Funk and Jimmy Buffett also died. We actually mentioned Terry Funk
We did
and
mention Terry Funk.
uh, Windhelm Watundra, which is Bray Wyatt. We mentioned them last week.
Yeah, I
They
found out about
passed.
Jimmy Buffett literally last night at around
Yeah.
3 in the morning because I was, like I mentioned
Well,
to you that
I was gonna send you the post that I saw on Twitter and be like, so no more Margaritaville.
yeah, that man, he founded Margaritaville. He coined the term "It's 5 o'clock somewhere." Like he's a legend in his own right. But yeah, like last night, like I mentioned to you before the stream, I was having trouble sleeping, so I was just browsing through memes. And you know how it is on meme pages and meme apps that whenever like someone famous passes, eventually like all of the RIP posts start coming up. So yeah, I found out that it was Jimmy Buffett, and I was like, dude, like, jeez. So like kind of a weird thing, like I didn't want this to end up being the stream where we're just like talking about like one person after another that passed away, but yeah, unfortunately, like some legends have been around for quite some time, and like their time in the light, their legend has to fade. It's a sad reality of life.
It's gonna be upsetting when, like, next week we say Nicolas Cage has passed away or something.
Now, well, speaking of Nicolas Cage, there are rumors that Nicolas Cage is coming back as Ghost Rider for an MCU project. Let's go!
See,
Uh,
that's called a segue.
yeah, no, my segues are always terrible. I always say,
Yeah, they
"Speaking
are.
of the next thing," and then I just change the slide. I'm like segues are hard, so sometimes I just kind of improvise. You see, but yeah, so like Nicolas Cage played Ghost Rider in like the Ghost Rider movie, which must have come out in like 2005 ish. I remember I was like high school age when I saw it. Um, kind of a kind of a fun movie, like, but not fun as in this movie is good. It's fun as in like this movie is bad, but it's so bad it's
Yeah,
good.
like the Doom movie, like Room.
Yeah, 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 like stuff like that. So like it's cheesy, it's hokey, it's campy. We love it, and it's got Nicolas Cage as a lead, and he has just made a career. Which one thing that should be noticed: Nicolas Cage is often said to be one of the hardest working actors in Hollywood, and it shows because he really, like he really is in a lot of stuff. But other than that, he is kind of characterized as being like a really over the top actor. Like roles that he's in are often like played for comedy. Because their actions and their reactions and like their line deliveries like always so very extra. Like one of the iconic ones that every always gets brought up is not the
The
bees, the
bees,
bees.
not the bees.
So yeah, like
Nicolas Cage and the Wicker Man.
Nicolas Cage in The Wicker Man. He is kind of like that type of actor. So him in Ghost Rider, like the quintessential Marvel anti-hero, like a guy cursed by the devil to be a bounty hunter to catch
And
demons
ride
that
a
escape.
motorcycle.
Yeah, to catch demons that escape from hell on his flaming motorcycle with his head's a skull on fire. And so, like, putting Nicolas Cage as the lead in this, I was like, oh, this has got to be good. Like, I went to watch it and I was like, yeah, but it's not good as in, like, wow, this movie really changed my life. It's good as in, like, oh, wow, like, the acting over the top. The effects cheesy as hell. Like, the plot kind of hokey. I love every bit about this. This is great. It's fantastic. Um, but so with that being said, there was an Entertainment Insider Twitter account that basically was replying to this one Twitter account that all they do is they post pictures and like animated gifs from different like superhero media. And in this particular animated picture, it was like Nicolas Cage transforming into Ghost Rider. And so this Entertainment Insider Twitter account replies by saying, "Oh, I love this movie. It's great that Nicolas Cage is coming back." So, kind of like one of these things like, so we know that they're an Entertainment Insider and like the name of the account is My Time to Shine Hello. So we know that they're an Entertainment Insider. So it's them saying this just kind of like started the rumor mill spinning where it's like, is Nicolas Cage coming back as Ghost Rider in a Marvel movie? Like in the MCU, is that possible? And
National Treasure 3, The Ghost Rider.
National Treasure 3, Ghost Riding. But like, what's it called? So the Marvel universe presently as it is seems to be kind of like going off into like multiverse territory. So it could happen. I mean, like, this is one of those things. It's like, maybe, like, it could, but like, we're not gonna hold our breath. If it doesn't happen, don't be surprised, but like, if it does happen, let's go. Yeah, like Nicolas Cage back as Ghost Rider, let's do it. And I guess it should be noted that Nicolas Cage has had a role in a Marvel project recently, technically a Sony project, because he plays Spider-Man Noir in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So, he's involved in that. Also notable, Nicolas Cage is actually a huge fan of comic books. As a matter of fact, his stage name, Nicolas Cage, he chose it because he named himself after Marvel character Luke Cage. So, just a little bit of trivia in case you didn't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like
I thought his name was actually Nicolas Cage.
No, that's not his real name. That's his stage name, and chosen because like he was a fan of the Luke Cage Hero for Hire comic book. So
that's kind of upsetting. I had Nicolas Cage tattooed on my back.
Yeah. That is.
I thought that was his name.
I'm like, that is a choice that you decided to make, and you now have to live with.
Now Nicolas Cage, he doesn't even exist.
Yeah,
it's just fake.
Yeah, it's fake names, and like just gonna conclude this this episode with this meme where like at the very intro, the intro reads Dareinger was not harmed in the making of this episode, but this meme says everyone was harmed in the making of this video.
Yeah.
I saw this and I was like, oh, that's beautiful. I love it. But with all of that said, thank you guys for tuning in for today's episode of the Battle Phase podcast. Normally, this is the Friday episode being recorded on Sunday because, like, it's been a hell of a week, dude. Like, it was, we had unexpected things come up. We had, like, we were feeling under the weather. The day jobs just never relent. It is always one thing after another. But you know what? Coming in to record an episode, to hang out with you guys in the audience, to our listeners on the podcasting platforms, and to hang out with Dare Bear is just honestly like the highlight of my week. Like these are the days that I look forward to.
These are the days of our lives.
Is that something that Morgan Freeman said?
No, it's like sand, and it's from Days of Our Lives.
Oh, well, you said it in like Morgan
TV
Freeman
show.
accent.
Well, that's what they say on the TV show.
Is it like? But is that?
Do you think I watch Days of Our Lives?
That's the show that Arlene Sorkin played Calliope Jones in.
Yeah, I was referencing that.
Were you referencing that? I thought that
How could you not know?
I thought it was a weird coincidence.
We're too far past being redeemable at this point.
Yes, but anyway, I want to thank you guys for showing up and for chatting with us. And we'll be back next week on a regularly scheduled time, provided that nothing weird happens like it did this week. And other than that, I have been the Midnight Bard.
Like sand through an hourglass. I have been Dareinger.
He has been Dareinger, and that is a classy sign out. He has been Dareinger. Adios.
Bye.